trouble you guys to take your seats, please. Again, thank you for coming in. As you can see, we are in a very, very cozy, comfortable and tight setting. This conversation, this fireside chat is recorded for future publications on our SMU's sites and SMU publications as well. Alrighty, so I think we should go ahead. Where is the, okay, I'll just do a time check here. All right, so my name is Raphael, and it's my pleasure to host this and moderate this fireside chat today. Our fireside chat is on power couples, travel, lifestyle, men's health, quite a lot of topics we are going to cover, and it's our pleasure to introduce our guest. But before we go there, why are we here today? Who's organizing this? This is brought to you by SMU IIE, Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We are running a BIG program. It's our business innovations generator. We have incubatees here. We take in 2 cohorts a year, and if you're interested in incubating with us, do let us know or drop for our online guests. Do drop a message and Donna will reply promptly. Also, we are running our Lee Kuan Yew Global Business Plan competition. It's happening right now. We are taking in applications. So if you have a great disruptive idea or a business, do check us out, do apply. We have up to $2 million in prizes, not per team, but overall. All right, so just to manage expectations. Okay, so again, we are starting our fireside chat. Great to have all of you here. We'd like to introduce our guests. We have Hala Will Travel, and we have He Health. Now, I think customary, we should get the ladies to go first, and just for convenience, we have Susanna on our left. Now, would you like to introduce Hala Will Travel, and then we'll just pass the mic down. The mic's over there. Thank you, Susanna.
Hello, I'm Susanna. I'm the co-founder of Hala Will Travel. So we are the leading travel and lifestyle platform for Muslims in Asia. Our broader vision is really to help Muslims travel the world and break down the stereotype about who Muslims are. I think the media hasn't really painted a very nice image of who Muslims are throughout the years. So we really hope that through travel, we can encourage everyone to travel, understand each other better, and break down barriers between one another. Yeah.
Thank you. Oops, okay, I need to remember there's a 2-second gap here. All right, so thank you, Susanna. We'll pass the mic down. Over to you, Melvin.
Yeah, so Susanna already introduced our company. So just maybe I'll just cover the more business aspects. First, introducing myself, I'm Melvin or Mikhail. I am the CEO of the company. And Susanna mentioned about our vision and mission, right? So I will talk about our who we work with and what we do, right, as a business. So basically, we run as a lifestyle and travel platform. We work with brands such as Unilever, Grab, Nestle, a lot of other brands, big and small, right, in order to help them understand the Muslim customers more. And through our advertising solutions, they can reach out to them, and also through our research and content, right? And data, they actually can make better decisions of their products and strategy. So that's the more business aspects of what we do, right?
Thank you, Melvin. Hint to everyone out there, Hala Will Travel, Susanna and Melvin are our SMU alumni. TikTok. All right. Over to you, Dr. Yu. Who's going first? Okay, I love this. All right, over to Mei Ling from He Health.
Hi guys, I'm Mei Ling. I'm the co-founder of He Health, and what we do at He Health, we do AI diagnostics. More specifically, at the moment, our current focus is on AI diagnostics for STDs in men. And of course, we do a lot more than that, but that's our current focus.
Going to enjoy this conversation. And our final speaker, Dr. Yudhara.
Good morning, guys. I'm a medical doctor by profession. I'm a consultant emergency physician. I'm used to work in the government side before I quit and start He Health. I start He Health with Mei Ling, my life partner and startup partner. That's why we are here today. A little bit of background. I'm a physician for 15 years. I teach in NUS in medicine and innovation both, or at least I used to. Now I'm more of a part-time position on the universities. And innovation is very core part of my life, especially after the COVID. We thought in Singapore, we are super solid on healthcare sector. Nothing can beat us, but COVID proves us wrong. We felt there's a massive gap and technology could have been adopted better to solve some of these things. And as we all know, technology was kind of forced into us to adopt, and it happens in the healthcare. So I was doing some innovations on the diagnostic side. Diagnostics mean to find out how the disease is. Usually we use blood tests, x-rays, CT, MRI kind of thing, but we realize we have a very powerful machine in our hand, which is our hand phone. We have a microphone, we have a camera, we can use these things. As a doctor, what we do is we use our eyes and ears to hear and listen and see. So we thought we can use the phone, which have same qualities with a very high processing power. We use those qualities to detect diseases. And we started with infectious disease to be ultra focused, sexually transmitted disease. But it's something more or less similar to COVID, very common in world. So we thought that's where we started, and happy to talk a little bit more, but here we are today mostly to talk about couple dynamics and how to run the business.
Actually, hang on to the mic. Let's dive into that. So you gave a very good background, where you came from, and the pain points of what you identified. You could have done this yourself, right? You could have started this business yourself. So what made you go into it with your lifelong partner, right? Hence, the perfect move into or lead into our definition of power couples.
Actually, startups are core part of our relationship, and SMU is also a very important place in our relationship. So me and Millie.
Sorry, I think he just mentioned SMU again, right?
You are correct. You are correct.
All right.
Little bit of how we met. When we met, we were both living in two different countries. We were knowing or having a long distance relationship, but we thought to really move to the next step, we have to be in a single place. So we were doing both really good jobs, and it's not asking to sacrifice one's job and to move. So we try to find a middle ground, and SMU was the middle ground. So we apply for a mailing, actually we both together apply for the MBA. Mailing got it, and then Mailing quit from the job and moved to Singapore to do the MBA at SMU, and that's how we got married basically.
Fantastic. And how long have you been doing HeHealth for together, both of you?
We were interested in startups from the beginning, and even when we were having long distance relationship, we was always talking about business ideas. She's from a pharma background on the change management. So when SMU, when she moved in, of course, it's part of the business, and we had few ideas, did not work through, but when the COVID, just before the COVID, we had the HeHealth idea. Actually, I will share the story behind it if you have 1 minute, because it's a very powerful story.
We've got 1 hour for you, mate. Go for it.
Perfect. So just before the COVID, during the Christmas time, one of my friend called me or text me saying that thank you for being a good friend. And that's not something you would see every day. And me as a physician, I have immediately recognized this is a distress call for someone who's about to commit suicide. I immediately rushed to his place, and he was not willing to share. He was on the balcony of a 9th floor. And we immediately bring him to the home, ask him. He said, look, I am so stupid. I have embarrassed my whole family, and I don't want to talk about it. I just want to end my life. After explaining so much, he finally came out and said, look, I have done something stupid. Now I have HIV. I said, wait, how do you get HIV so fast though? Like, you didn't mention to me anything else. He's a married person with a kid, but he thought he have unprotected sex with someone else because there was a night he had too many drinks. He wake up, he cannot remember anything. So he assumed everything. And then there was no way he can ask help because it's so stigmatized. He thought if I ask help, doctors will judge me, hospital will ask my wife to come in, and all these social barriers. So he suffered inside. After some time, he thought like, okay, it would even make sense for me to kill myself rather than suffering daily. And anyway, we check him. He was perfectly fine. He had no diseases. It's just all mental thought. And then he's digging into that rabbit hole. With that, I ask, how come technology cannot help? We have so many things we can do. How come phone can give some advice properly? Because what happens is he Google, and all this wrong information, he got it from Google. I'm sure everybody will relate to this kind of story. You have cancer, you have this. I've seen in the hospital many times. But I thought I can do it a better, more accurate information. So that's how we created eHealth. eHealth is simple as you can answer a few questions, you can upload a picture of your affected area, in this case is male genitalia penis, and we can very accurately tell certain diseases whether they have a risk, or if it's present, very accurately whether they have the disease or not. And we started as a fun project to help my friend. We create a simple one, show it to my friend, they start loving it, they start spreading into the friends. Everybody was messaging, oh, this is so cool. Then we thought, why not do it as a proper startup? We had a few researchers helping us. Then we realized actually it's much, much bigger. It's a global problem. It's as big as COVID. With COVID, as I said, I realized actually next thing can be something from STDs actually. So we were very passionate. We dropped our day jobs and quit from our usual jobs, started this.
I'm quite speechless actually. That was a very deep sharing, very real sharing. And as Dr. Yudara was speaking about that, actually a couple of things went into my head now. Firstly, he's making my job as a moderator quite tough because he's actually gone down the list of questions I got for him already. But also that also got me to think now. How do you separate your professional life and your personal life then? Because of such deep backgrounds and of such deep pain points, I'm sure as couples, they would have been talking about this maybe over dinner when they're out. I mean, how do you separate this? So I think I want to give that question to Mei Ling, and then after that, I'll move over to HHWT for a few more questions after that. So Mei Ling, how do you separate? How do you find the balance?
I think using balance is probably not the right word over here.
Fair enough. All right. Fair enough. Agree.
Right? Running startup, there's no balance,
No.
whether or not it's a couple or not. I think that's first. And of course, for us, something that's very critical is how we manage our time, manage our boundaries. And of course, we have hard rules of things. That's how we set where the boundaries are. Of course, day and night, we talk about work, but there are definitely times that we set aside that we don't do it. So we have like hard rules, like at least once per week, we'll go out for a date and no work talk. And that's very important. And of course, like weekend is our time for family, for our kids, for our parents and all that. So we set hard rules. And of course, apart from that, I think, the dynamic between the couple and the business and all that can really come together when time is very stressful. A lot of things are going on and all that. That's why we set up structure and systems to actually support us. So we do have very helpful advisors literally on our fast dial. So if there's anything that we find it hard to come to an agreement, we always ask our advisors for their advice, and we use that as a critical means to make critical decisions. Of course, we have set aside advisors on different field of things, so they're expert in that field. So we know we can actually lean on the decision that they have made for us. Not saying that they're making all the decision for us, but of course they're very critical in informing us in those different aspects. That's one. And of course, another one is we also have our own therapist to talk to, whenever things is, gets very complicated and all that. We talk to our therapist. She knows us individually. We talk to her together and all that. I think it's very important that, if you need help, get the help that you need. Doing startup is very stressful anyway. So it's very important to just know that, reach out. Yeah.
Thanks, Mei Ling. Okay, so I've got three very important takeaways from that, right? So firstly is to set your rules. So according to Mei Ling, that once a week, it's very important to get time off really family time. And then have a list of very good advisors on speed dial. Right, I think the word to emphasize here would really be the speed dial, and of course have their own therapist. So thanks for that, and that's also a shout out to all our startup founders who are listening out there, online and as well here, when you want to get something going and together with your lifelong partner. Over to HHWT, Melvin. Now we've been leaving you aside for a while. We're gonna spend some time on you now, right? So Melvin, how long have the both of you been doing this for? I know you're SMU alumni, so did you meet here and then get into this together? We've been seeing you around our incubation space as well. How long have the both of you been doing this for?
Actually, since 2015 when we started now. So we also had a equally interesting epiphany, right? So for us, a lot of people know us as a publication or blog or things like that, right? But the fact is that our vision is bigger than that. And it's caused by a series of things that were set in motion, not within our control, right? And it inspired us to do different things. So it's like how Spider-Man has to have like Uncle Ben die before he really becomes Spider-Man, right? So it's the same for us, right? So there were incidences in our journey, right, that really shape who we are and the vision that we stand for, right? So for me, two specific incidents. The first one was in Tokyo. Both of us were traveling there, right? So I remember it was a very funny restaurant. It's a Mongolian restaurant, right? And if you know the Japanese very well, they don't really eat like lamb, right? So number one, it was very strange. And number two, they were very, very respectful. They say you're Muslim, and so I don't drink. That's the second strange thing, right? And the third strange thing that happened that night was, you know, they were all executives, right? Fuji TV, you know, all the big companies, right? And they asked me, oh, Melvin, actually, why are Muslims killing non-Muslims? That was the moment of epiphany for me, right? If you're listening, before that, I was just writing for people to have fun and things like that. And I really never really thought about it. Then after that, that question really struck me, right? Why are Muslims killing non-Muslims? And it's a topic that I had to deal with because I was a Muslim, right? And, you know, I had significant clout, right? There was a following and it could really be put to good use, right? In the sense of inspiring people to be more harmonious, right? So, but that question came because of the Charlie Hebdo incidences. I'm not sure whether you still remember, but 2015, the Charlie Hebdo incident in Paris, right, caused a lot of people to be beheaded and things, right? And there was genuine fear, right, on both sides, Muslims and non-Muslims, right? And I think the main thing was, you know, that caught me off guard was how I didn't see how we could put our publication and strength, right, to help bridge, you know, ties between Muslims and non-Muslims. And that was the first incident, right? And the second incident, I'll let her share, right? It was somewhere in 2018 where you know, we were slightly more established already. We started traveling to, you know, getting gigs from like tourism boards to help promote their country. And the specific country that we went to was New Zealand in 2018, right? And the specific place we went to was Christchurch, right? So 2 weeks before, you know, they actually went down to a mosque, the Christchurch mosque, to shoot, right? There were kids there, refugees, you know, we made friends, everything, right? And I think the experience is more vicarious for my wife, because she was actually there. I wasn't, right? But I remember how that day went down. So I'll let her share that part of you, right? But that was the second epiphany, right? A reminder of what we stand for, right? So yeah.
So I think it was 2018, we were in New Zealand for our media trip. So I remember going to the mosque. It was a Friday. It was very nice. There was people having prayers. You can see kids running around, parents, mothers. And then 2 weeks later, we were back in Singapore. Suddenly I was telling him, hey, do you see the news? There's a shooting in the Christchurch mosque. I was like, oh no, it's the exact mosque that I just went to 2 weeks ago. Like, it's really very hard to imagine. And I was so worried. I was thinking, like, how are the people that I met just 2 weeks ago, are they still alive? Because I think the gunman just went in and went crazy. And I think I was very shaken by the incident because it felt so real. I actually experienced it. And I think I spoke to Melvin, my other co-founder, and we realized that actually the incident was just another reminder. I think that was 2018, 3 years on after you started our company, things were very hard. Sometimes you forget what you're doing or why you wake up in the morning and the bigger vision sometimes, because it just gets so stressful. And I think the incident was another wake-up call for us to remind us that the work we are doing is really very important and that people are counting on us. Like, maybe through that little article that we push out, we help a non-Muslim in New Zealand understand who Muslims are better. Maybe such things wouldn't happen so frequently. So I think it really helped us remember that what we are doing is, like, I might see like one article, but actually we're reaching a bigger picture of helping peace between people of different backgrounds. Yeah,
I actually remember that incident. I do remember. It was on everywhere. I think after that, the Prime Minister Jacinta Ardern banned semi-automatic rifles and above, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that. It was actually pretty scary, very, very real. I can't imagine what it would have been like actually. Yeah. So this is again, for our listeners, this is normally how really startup ideas really come about, not leveraging all this, but really, it's a experience that, founders actually go through. It's not just about looking around and say, okay, there's something I probably want to problem solve. It's something they experience to heart. And that's where actually the ideas and the passion really comes from. But between the both of you, now that you have experienced this together and you had your dialogue and to move into this, would you be able to share one particular success that probably the two of you can say, yes, we've done it, that period of time led us to this, or to the success of our business, one particular success, one particular point. How did you get there? Would you like to share that? Open to the both of you.
I think I'll share first and then let her share hers, because I guess it's kind of like different milestones, right? I think through the years, right, we have met a lot of success, right? Thankfully. And, of course, equal number, if not more number of failures, right? That is the nature of startups, right? You actually have more failures and more days you end up with your face on the floor than actually having successes, right? But if you really look back in time, I think the one moment I think that I felt was defining, right, was the first contract we signed. That's what I remember in 2016, right? We were doing this, and we say, if what we're doing is so popular and it's so much, traction, things like that, why don't we just go to a brand and say, pay me for this? So it's like the moment you become pro, right? Like, for a photographer, everything they used to do for fun, and suddenly someone pays them for the photo, and ding, they receive their certification, and they suddenly become pro, right? So I remember that brand was KLM, right? And remember where we went, right? So she went, not we, she went, right, to Amsterdam, and it had stroop waffles and so fun, So that was the defining moment, right? Where we set our SOPs that some of them are even still used today, right? So that was the defining moment. I think was a successful thing, and that was our market opportunity. People recognized that, and someone was willing to pay a value for it, right? So that was a product market fit moment for me, lah. So yeah. So maybe share more, lah.
That real aha.
Not aha. Is okay. There is something there. Okay, it's a signal. Aha came before that, right? But this is signals, right? Yeah.
Over to you, Suzanne.
I think I was just telling him yesterday how we'll answer the question. I think the answer is the fact that we are still married today and our business is still running and we have a little girl with us today.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and we are still going strong, and I have to admit it has been very, very, very tough. It's very, very stressful. Even I think becoming a mom was a bit of a shock for me. I always knew I was going to be a mom, but I didn't know how hard it was to be a working mom with a young baby and having a co-founder as your the father of your baby as your co-founder. So you wouldn't he can take paternity leave and just chill next to you and help you. No, he is taking calls. I'm hey, the baby's crying, I don't know what to do. And trust me, it was a bit crazy last year. But the fact that we are here today and she's happily in childcare, where I can come to office and work and our business is going strong, it's really a blessing for us. Yeah.
Congratulations. I'm going to flip it a little bit because everyone's predicting that we're just going to go this way, right? So I'm going to flip it a bit. Now, Mei Ling is holding the mic, so I've got a question for you, Mei Ling, right? So we've talked about something, the great defining moments of success and so on. I think I'd like to move on a little bit more into your businesses. But before we do that, there's let's not sugarcoat everything, right? So let's go into something a little bit more real. How about challenges? How about, any one real challenge or a few you would like to share about power couples running businesses together? Naturally you would have something happening before you came out with all your 3 rules just now, right? So would you like to share that?
Good question. Actually, just for some context, before we enter startups together, one of my past colleague / friend has always said that she's never really seen a couple that's so aligned ever. So that's us. We're very aligned in most of the aspects of things. And I think that comes with, of course, our own experience that we bring forward for what we have worked in. And as he mentioned, just now, I used to work on change management, and more specifically, our clients are all in pharma space. So I understand healthcare. We work with a lot of doctors previously and all that. So I think that helps to set some context on things. So it doesn't make things easier, I would say it doesn't make things easier, and it does not mean that we don't have disagreement and all that. But I think that's the part of running startup. Even with non-couple founders, you will have that anyways. It doesn't make things less or more difficult in a way. It's just that being a couple brings a little bit more complexity to things. And that's why we set hard rules and all that. Of course, we get inspirations from our parents, because his parents and my parents are all couples running business together, still going strong for years, not years, decades. So of course we observe them growing up, knowing what are the hard rules or boundaries, or what are the things that they have sort of set up as a process that actually help them through the process. So we use that as a, as our rule. So we set our grounds very clearly. Of course, the support system and all that are things that we eventually add in. But I think we're lucky enough to, actually have those people that are ready to support at any time. Challenges, I think startup challenges more or less similar, similar in many different ways. You have to run your business. When, the fuel in the tank is blinking, trying to get the light up at all times, trying to make sure that your team is still, very passionate and focused on doing the things while we, have to raise funds and all of that. So I think these are like typical startup challenges. And as mentioned, being a couple just add a little bit of the complexity.
Let me add a little bit here. I'll give one example, and I'll spill out a little bit of what we mean by aligning. Actually, when we applied to be incubated in BIG, she was about to deliver. So interview with the SMU was around there. So we said, it's fine. We cannot say no, right? It's a big important starting point for us. And that unexpectedly, she went into labor. We had to went to labor room, but we still bring our laptop. And she literally took the call to get it selected to SMU in the labor room. And people are shocked we bring a laptop, work laptop, to a
Do you have a shareholders agreement? I'm just curious now. I mean, you put that together. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, so that simply tells you how tough it is to run, whether you are a couple or not. Simply, both of us are involved. Not say no. This one, we have to bring the laptop and take the course because there's no, and we decided that we want to get into the SMU big program. That explains, and I'm sure the Melvin and co-founder also have similar stories. But when Mei-Ling said we are very aligned, I think it boils down to communication. We have two simple rules. One is your wife is always right.
Yep,
And,
agree. Yeah.
And the second rule is
my wife tunes in to say wife's always right.
Whenever you think wife is not right, go back to the first one and read again. That's the alignment we have, so it's easier. So there's no disagreements. So that way we can easily communicate and move forward.
Life advice, not just startup advice, my friends. Life advice, right? Hang on to the mic. Okay, so with all this going on and bringing your laptop into the labor room and so on, plus getting rejections. I mean, running a business, you would encounter a lot of rejections along the way. It's not painted so beautifully all the time. There's all your client meetings and so on, preparing all your pitch decks, and next thing you know, you might not even get that appointment. How do you stay motivated? How do you stay focused and motivated?
I think it's an important part where you ask your question, why you are doing this. So to us, honestly, when Mei-Ling said it's not about balance, what it means is we don't think work and our personal life is as two different things. So we think it's our life's mission to do what we do right now. And our startup is very different from Melvin's startup because we are in the deep tech. Development of the technology itself takes multiple years and validation takes many years, and we do not earn from it. So like what Rafael said, when we start going, especially in Asia, when you're pitching this kind of idea to investors, everybody is asking how much money you're making. Actually, we don't make money. We cannot commercialize like that in a deep tech space. And artificial intelligence is still a very new thing. At least now with ChatGPT, everybody is talking about it, but still it's a long way to go. So we face these challenges regularly. So I think that's the part where you need to have that courage of what you believe in your life is there to work. It's not really a 8 to 5 job, you know. Once you have that motivation, we as a couple, we are surrounded by good friends and investors who really put their time. And they always say, this is not about you two. It's not about the idea. It's about a vision we try to bring to the world. So then it becomes, of course, bigger than just the one person or your couple thing. Or so then, of course, you get motivated because there are people around us appreciate you, what you're doing, and they are motivated. They are putting. It's a group effort. So in that way, you keep feeling like you have to go on. But of course, tough time comes. There are times we as a couple, you look at the account, it looks almost zero. And we have so many researchers, scientists working and how we're going to pay the salaries. But if you believe in it, of course, there's always a way to figure it out. That's part of innovation, not the science itself, how you balance your life things, how you balance your work things, how you balance your finances. So these are all part of the innovation or like in the startup. So I think as far as you have a strong motivation, why you're doing this, then I think you can go ahead and do it. But as I said, this motivation hardly comes by looking at it. Let's find a startup idea to work. No, you have to actually find something it means deep inside. Okay, this means life to me. I'm ready to put my life behind it. So then, of course, everything comes relatively easy. I won't say it's easy, but relatively easy.
Thank you. I want to ask a mother the same question, right? Being a mother is not easy, you know. How old's your kid again? Sorry, 1.5. So, wow, well, running your business is probably what, 3-hour cycles of feeding time, right? You sleep, you wake up 3-4 hours, crying and so on, and then after that, while carrying your child, you take a business call. I mean, it's not easy thinking what to what food to prepare next and so on. So yeah, I want to ask this mother this question, right? So how do you stay motivated? Again, advice for couples out there who want to jump into the startup world.
I think with a child, that's another layer of a bigger motivation of what we are doing. Because, at the end of the day, it's not just about both of us. If we fail, it's not both of us feeling. We have a baby who's counting on us and we are her world. So I think that makes everything even more serious and that there's no chance to fail right now. Like the moment she's born, there's no way that we can fail. And I think that's what makes us like, we have to succeed no matter what. So meet the day end, find another way and try and solve it.
A bigger reason than yourself, right? Way bigger reason.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so a shout out again to our online listeners and also to our audience here. If you have any Q&A, we're going to move on into the more business segment now. So as we leave the power couple segment, right? If you have any Q&A for them, just put it into the chat. Donna will moderate it and she will, for online folks, right? And she will let us know later the questions that you have. Similar for our crowd here. Thank you for turning up. And yes, later we will have our Q&A. Don't hold back, all right? If you have any questions, not too personal, but if you have any questions, please feel free. I want to now let's learn a little bit more about your business, your specific business and offerings. So Susanna, you got a mic. Let's stay with you, okay? So He Health and Have Halal Will Travel, both of your companies actually focus on serving specific populations, as we have heard, right? Muslim travelers in Asia, and men seeking STD care. Now, how do you identify or actually reach out to your target segments? I know we've touched a little bit about the challenges, but if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, please go for it. So, Susanna, over to you. You can share the mic with Melvin as well.
I think when we started our Have Halal Travel, that was when social media really started taking off. So we were on Facebook, Instagram, and that's how our content really picked off really quickly. But at the root of it, of how we reach our audience, is really understanding what your audience needs. And I think that's like the defining factor, because if you don't know what they need, no matter what, because we are a media platform, so no matter what you push out, if you are not answering that question, they're not going to, like, you can be pushing out on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok many times a day, but they just, when they see a content and it doesn't resonate with them, they just wouldn't read it. So I think it's back down to understanding what they need and who are they.
You want to add to that, Melvin?
Yep. If you talk about specific techniques and so on, I think the media landscape has changed quite a fair bit. But fundamentally, the frameworks are still the same. You find a need, then you feel the need, right? Then you find the platform that they're on. So the media platform, like I mentioned, has changed quite a fair bit. Social media is not really getting that kind of returns anymore, right? It's very ephemeral, very vanity kind of metrics that we're looking at, right? But at the end of the day, we have to know what makes your business tick, right? So is it some silly dance on TikTok that gives you the view, and from that view, what it means to your business? We have to understand that, because I see a lot of people investing in things that, wow, I got 1 million views. So the biggest question is like, so, right? What, right? Does it give you $100 more in your bank, $1,000 more, $1 million more? What exactly does it do to move your needle, right? So you have to be very, very hyper aware. I think the next thing as a framework, right, after you solve the question about alignment, right, and then after that, where they hang out, the next thing I will usually ask is, do you even have the capacity to do it or not? Because a lot of people say, yeah, it's a good idea to go TikTok and this kind of thing. Okay, so then you look at your team, and realize, hey, half of them are 45 years old, right? Maybe they don't know how to use TikTok. Okay, then you got a problem, right? So then you either acquire resources or not. So if you go through that process, first is what's the problem you're solving? Then after that, where are they hanging out? Then after that, following and understanding how it moves your needle. And do you even have the resources to follow up with that? Then it's a very good framework to decide where to spend your time on.
Yeah, I actually like what he mentioned. I think we are looking at a world of vanity matrices here, right? So you get a lot of likes and so on, but how do you convert that? What does that really mean? Right? And also really the demographics. I mean, social media, Facebook, of course, serves a different population. TikTok, Instagram. There's not one post that serves all. Right? So this is really good learning lessons. Thank you, Melvin. Thank you. Okay, so I wanna ask you again, right? The question. Just now when you were talking about in his introduction, he was talking about Japan, and that's how we led to Christchurch and so on. Then that would lead us to understand that your industry could be slightly misunderstood, or I think a word that could have been used, or maybe not. It was just in my notes. Perhaps even stigmatized, right? So how do you work, or how does you as a company, as a power couple, work to actually counter this stereotyping?
I think the first thing is there is a very important customer that we always remember. And I say it supersedes me as a CEO. It supersedes, anyone, even Susanna. And I will listen to this customer. I won't listen to Susanna. Right? That is like ironic, right? But I don't trust anyone except for this person. I don't, but this thing, right? It's called data. Right. So we are beyond the realm of I feel, I think, or it should not, right? But rather what the data says. If you follow closely the data, it will lead you somewhere. If you don't follow the data, maybe you'll be lucky like Andy Warhol drawing some bananas and everything suddenly become very popular. But the chances of that is very, very low. Right, so gone are the days of like this kind of inspiration. And you realize that even for this kind of artists, right, they take some kind of data points to extrapolate. It's a perfect mix, right? A perfect storm, right? To create that kind of movements, right? But they're all from data, discrete data, right? That exists everywhere, signals, right? So the ability to find these signals and make sense of it, and then after that, put it to good use, depends on, it will determine your success or failure. Like, for example, how people don't realize yet, and we try and tell them that Muslims are eating hot pot. It might sound very stupid, like everyone is telling me this, right? But you think about it, right? Hot pot is a traditionally very Chinese culture. Why is there an adoption and increase of number of people eating that? And when I bring the data and show the thing, oh yeah, makes sense. Because they've been watching Korean dramas, and when during winter they like to dip the odeng and everything like that. Then oh yeah, then there's a mala craze that just happened 3 years ago. If you put all the data point together, right? Boom, it's a perfect storm. It is a behavior that will happen, right? And is set to increase in trajectory, which means people like Dodo Fishball, everything, right, should be looking at this. They should be going to the Middle East and everything, because there will be a storm in 3 years' time. But if you don't look at the data and you think you know everything, then you'll be looking at, okay, you know what, Malay, eat nasi padang ah. Why you think so much? Curry lah. Then you miss all these opportunities that are out there. So to convince people, I can't tell you to like this industry or to believe it has potential until I show you the data. And the data is king. Right. So that's like my grand view, like, things.
That's actually, again, very good advice, right? Data says it all. Your sample size, how long are you capturing this data for? Even after events, right? We take in feedback, and of course we have to do something about the feedback, not just taking it for the sake of taking it, right? So all this data is really very important. Okay, jumping over to eHealth. I really have the same question for the both of you as well, right? So how do you reach out to your, with your very specific business and industries, right? How do the both of you reach out to how do you identify your target markets? It's not going to be easy. No one's going to just raise their hand when you ask a question, right? So how do you reach out to them? How do you identify and then reach out to them? To anyone?
Honestly, our approach more or less the same. Definitely understanding the people that you're serving is very important. We do a lot of research. We have our research lead, behavioral lead, Dr. Rayner. He's a social behavior scientist in the field of SCI, and he's probably one of the most famous researcher in this particular space in Asia. So we work with him very closely. And of course, we personally do a lot of research and interviews with people of all lives, of all backgrounds, really trying to understand the drivers, motivations, the key moment that they find our solution to be relevant, where they will find this information or whatever their behavior is and all that. Of course, we're working with a space where a lot of people are not very open to share about, because there could be a lot of shame, embarrassment, and all of that around it. But of course, we have our very special way of interviewing people that, of course, we work with our scientists to really figure out what is the sweet spot for people that are more willing to share. We also have anonymized channels to reach out to people to talk about more, embarrassed things that a lot of people are not willing to share. So that's definitely one of the key things that we do a lot. And that also informs on the channels, platforms that we actually choose to reach to them, whatever that's going to be more effective. But of course, these things can also very subject to the country, the population, and all of that. So I'm not saying that we're the best, we're definitely still in the process of learning. And of course, that's why data is very critical. And data definitely inform us in many different ways. And actually, among our users, there's a notable amount of female using our service, which is not even like imaginable for a lot of people. But if you really look into the data and see, hey, actually there are some very interesting behavior coming up that we never really know what's possible. And those are really the kind of things that we dive very deep to try to understand what the motivation and why they have done such thing. And that actually helps to inform us on our future strategy as well. Yeah. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think I don't have to add anything of what they mentioned. I totally agree. Only thing I can actually mention is, how do you find, if you're a startup founder, how do you find this data? It again also simply boils down to find your target audience. Who do you think that they have this problem or the pain point? Go and talk to them. Ask how they do it. Like, as I said, when I shared my friend's story, it was a very defining moment. I asked, why did you not ask help from me as a friend and a doctor? He knows I'm a good friend. He trusts me and I'm a doctor. Why did not you ask me help from me? And he said simply, because you know me, because you know my wife, and I thought you will judge. And if you deep look at it, that's exactly what Raphael said. Hardly people will raise hand and ask, because their personal identity is attached to their stigma, shame, whatever you want to name it. So when you remove that personal factor, people feel more comfortable. They do not feel that shame is attached to them. It's just attached to the story. So that's what exactly we did. Our systems are completely anonymized. We do not collect name, phone number, address, IC number, nothing. Then they feel like, oh, look, nobody will think that it's shameful to me. It's just to the story. people feel comfortable to talk. So it boils down to you go and ask people, what is the pain point? And they will tell you, then interview more people, talk to more people, use that data to build accordingly. I think that's where the data comes in, and then analyze the data as they said, then you have the answer actually. It's not rocket science. It's simply asking the right question at the right time. Just put some effort to think through and then use that insights to use or build your product.
So listening to that, I think what we're looking at is our solutions here are actually very all-inclusive, regardless of your faith, regardless of your cultures, regardless of who you are. Basically, the solutions here are really, really all-inclusive for everyone who needs a certain level of care there. I guess one question for that came to mind while anyone is listening to this is, okay, so you are talking about data now, right? For both companies here, and we're collecting quite a lot of sensitive information. How do you keep it private? I know you mentioned everything about keeping it anonymous, but I mean, would there be some identifiable trigger or anything like that so that you can provide or customize better care in the future? How is everything kept private?
Let me take this because this is one of the questions almost everybody asks, and that's where our business trust lies in. If you look at how we analyze data to help the patients or the users, actually you no need to know the name or face or the IC number. None of these things have any medical benefit to your medical history to decide what diseases you have. So what we do, there are 3 pillars we're working on this. First is in research, me as a scientist, we call data anonymization. Most of the time when we do the research, we remove the patient's names, IC numbers, and all these things, create a data set which have no information, which can be linked back to the user. But our system, we build it in a way that from the ground up, our data is not traceable back to the user. Of course, there are good and bad. What Raphael said, when you have no traces, if you want to communicate back to the patients, there are limitations. Of course, we have created innovative ways like what most of you familiar with Reddit, they have anonymized accounts. You can just put a random name, I'm elephant one, super elephant, and nobody knows this super elephant is. So then people still have a way to communicate it. We adopt some of these technologies, and we are building even more new technologies. You can do it more securely with these kind of things. But we can actually do a lot of data, but without tracing back to the user. I think that's how we did it. Happy to share a little bit, but I'm sure too much data might be a bit technical. But yeah, I'll let the other couple share.
I guess for us, I'll take this. I just for us is quite easy because it's already established for media companies to comply with GDPR laws and things like that, right? So basically, you have an obligation to number one, store the data. If you have to store it, you need to anonymize it, right? If you have to be shared, the reasons must be given very clearly to the person, and there must be an agreement, right? So the GDPR laws, right, are quite long. So you just go online and read it, right? That's just basically, you just have to comply. And it's quite a good framework already. So we're not talking about like 5 years ago where it's like Wild West, right? And people selling your data, everything. There is a rubric and framework for that in place, the GDPR. So that's what we comply by.
Susanna, anything to add to that?
Yeah, the GDPR, that's all.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just to add a little bit more, we do follow most of the data protocols in Singapore, US, and Europe. And it affects to us slightly differently because we don't collect personal data, but still we follow the data protocols which is established in the other countries. For example, we do follow HIPAA compliance protocols. Of course, we are not HIPAA certified yet, but it's a process. What it means is whenever we store the data, even though it's anonymized, there's still protocols we should follow. And US have set very elaborate protocols. Europe is coming with very elaborate protocols. Singapore is developing some of these things right now. We have PDPA, but as I said, PDPA is not really aligned to us because we don't collect the personal data, but we still follow. For example, all our data is stored in servers, which is US data protection compliant AWS servers, and they have set up certain rules, and we have to consciously agree and follow these things. And most importantly, as Melvin said, we communicate these things to the users. We tell them how we do it. We tell them how we handle their data. First, anonymize. After that, we still follow these protocols 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is how we do it. We explicitly, in a very simple way, tell them beforehand. We even ask them to submit anything to us. I think the users are very well educated on these things now. People read it, they understand it. As far as you look at some social media or any other Google, they see that we are actually following these things. We work with government organizations, universities. Then they feel that, okay, this is something I can trust. I think that's how we build it. So you have to have your principles set, communicate these things to the users very clearly, and most importantly, show it on the ground that you stick to these things. Then the trust builds, and then I think we can move forward.
I think we're actually moving into the why them question, right? So talking about trust, talking about the loyalty here, set to our clients, our customers, and vice versa as well, based on the data points and what we actually do with them. I would like to ask HHWT, right? So now we've spoken about technology. We've spoken about what we do with our processes and how we actually move forward and create better solutions. Let's touch a little bit about marketing now, right? Marketing and branding. So they're very crucial. Marketing and branding, some would actually argue that is the most crucial thing in any business. How do you work to build trust, right, and loyalty amongst your customers? We've heard from eHealth about keeping everything anonymous and what they do with the data. How about HHWT? What do you do to build trust and loyalty amongst your customers and have a better, or to create a better customer experience?
I think for us, our majority of our target audience are Muslims. So when we push out content or products for them, right, it's to do with their faith. So trust is a very important factor for us, which is why we really stress to everyone that our information needs to be up to date. We always mention that we're trying our best to make sure that it's accurate as of the time that we publish, because one misstep, your audience may be forgiving, but if it happens again, they will just be very upset. And once you lose that trust, it's hard to gain it back again. But that being said, not when it comes to faith, again, not everyone would agree with you. So for us, we always tell our audience, we won't tell you what to do, but your shared information is up to you to decide what you want to do, whether you choose to eat at this place or not. And I think through this feedback that we get through our social media channels, when we speak to our audience, we really build that rapport with them and trust, and that's how we really get the base stronger. Yeah.
And is that your process or your strategy to actually stay up to date with the happening trends around the world, not just from data, but basically really from facing the customers and so on? Or do you have any other strategies that you employ, which again sets you apart?
Yeah. So first is the framework, right? Because firstly, we cover a lot of sensitive topics. Like for example, the topic about halal is a very contentious one. But what many Muslims don't realize is that halal standards differ across the world. They're 90% similar, but 10% different. And whatever that is you think is right may actually be wrong somewhere else. Like how Saudis don't really eat prawns and crabs. People don't realize, right? But they don't. Right? And it's very strange to them that you put it on a table and call it halal. Right? So this kind of variances, right, make things a bit more challenging, and it's a bit more education for the users also, right? So that framework established, we have a very clear framework, right? So from our highest standard is halal certified, then all the way down to, I think, seafood, right? In between is like Muslim owned, a lot of different options, right? So like what Sue said, the first framework is, do you accept this, and where on the scale do you fall? It's not yes or no, like what Singapore is, right? It's either you're certified or not. Then you think, oh, you know what, I cannot go for it or whatever, right? But the truth is, when you go to some village in, I don't know, like India or something, there are no signs there, right? And you have to make your own decisions. So that's where we really push it to the audience, right? To make their own decisions, right? Because at the end of the day, it's your own faith. What are you putting in someone else's hand, right? So that's the thing that we really want to push, right? And the second thing about feedback, everything is about, she covered a bit, but I just want to really structure it a bit, right? The instruments in which we collect data there are many ways. She does a lot of anonymous surveys, or other surveys that we tap into different topics, things of interest, right, that we share. So there's one. Second, definitely social media, right? They give us feedback, the comments, and so on. Data analytics from what they view, what's trending on Google, and so on. There's another main part lah. But the difficult thing is stringing it all together and making sense, because what it is, right, you cannot see like a clay pigeon, right? Trying to shoot a clay pigeon, you cannot aim at the clay pigeon. You must aim forward. So the difficult thing is to know where to aim forward so you hit the clay pigeon. Right? That is the difficult thing, because the data will tell you something, but it's now.
You got to lead into it.
Okay,
right?
you need to lead into it. I say, okay, it will be like that. So you draw one dot, another dot, and you draw a line. Boom. That is the part that is difficult, right? Yeah.
And the future of your industry, what do you think it looks like?
ChatGPT.
Suddenly everyone's there. It's just
No, honestly, the reason why is because this, right? That's simply, last time, maybe 20 years ago, people thought, oh, the motor like segment in the newspaper, the person is like the ultimate king of cars and everything, right? Wow, so smart, knows everything about cars, he writes about cars and so on. And he's the best resource. But the truth is that ever since I think 2000s, when Instagram came out, everyone had a voice, everyone had opinions. Everybody's an expert now. The truth is that the role of the writer has to change from a writer to a content person, right? The person who understands data and be able to extrapolate. Because after ChatGPT gets smarter, there's no role for someone to just write. Something will write better than you, faster than you, more eloquent, right? In the tone that you want, everything. But what you cannot get ChatGPT to do is to imagine this clay pigeon scenario. They cannot. They can only do whatever that you tell them to do, but you need to instruct them, okay, aim here, not here, right? And that part is the value adding part, right? So it needs to transcend beyond norms, right? Because if you don't start doing this, right, you'll be replaced. What's stopping ChatGPT from creating another Muslim website? There's nothing, There's here to there, barriers very low. So investment in technology, investment in AI, investment in UGC platforms, right, are the next step for us, right? And all core is data. That's the way we are looking at it.
Can I just get a quick show of hands? How many from our audience here actually use ChatGPT? Fantastic. And how many from our audience here actually use ChatGPT for your assignments? No, I'm just joking. You did not need to put out. I was just joking.
The stats came out, right? So they took 5 days to get 1 million users or something.
Yes, it's scary.
Yeah. And it's scary.
Yeah, it's taking over the world.
And they were looking at Facebook, looking at Google, how long they take to acquire 1 million users. This thing is phenomenal. Everybody must integrate ChatGPT in their processes. If not, they will be wiped out. Any organization, right?
Agreed.
That's the thing.
They started on a Monday, got 1 million users by Friday. The owners can have a barbecue by Saturday.
Of course. No, seriously. So I think it's something should be on the radar of everything for business processes, right?
Thanks for sharing on that. Thanks for sharing on that. Really, the world is changing. We're really moving into AI, ChatGPT, and so on. Are we keeping current? I think that's the question. All right. You may have a fantastic idea, fantastic business now. How current is it? Are you keeping up with times? All right. So over to HeHealth as well. Where do you see your industry in the future? Technology enhancements, technology use, desired skill sets, anything like that. Where do you see your industry moving?
Not trying to boast, but we are creating the future in the space that we
Love
work
to hear
in.
that. Love to hear that.
We are. Because the field that we work in has been very traditional for the past decades. If you really look back, the protocols and all that, things hasn't really changed much. And the thing is that system really serving today's patients or today's users? Probably not, because that's why we see so many people fall through the cracks. The infections are actually growing globally still. It means the system is broken. And we also know that this generation behaves very different from all the past generation, like the tech adoption and all of that. This is just how they're used to. So that's why we dive very deep into observing this whole transition and their behavior and truly try to find out what is the kind of solution that they will find it most helpful and most relevant to the kind of behavior that they are used to. But of course, we are creating technology that require new behaviors to happen. And that's why, we work with all the social behavioral scientists very deeply to really try to understand how we can really make this behavior change in a larger scale. And that's also very critical. Like I mentioned just now, we have female users and all of that, which is very uncommon previously, because like STD in men, why does it have to do with women, right? Like that's typically how people think about it. But the thing is, if we're trying to change how people behave and how this whole thing is happening, we need to bring in new parameters into this game. Otherwise, the game will probably still remain the same. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's why I said we are creating that future in this industry. But of course, it comes with a lot of challenges, meaning a lot of people do not understand what we do. They question on whether or not this is really the thing and all of that. But I think when we are pioneering in the very new space, that's just a usual thing. ChatGPT decades ago, people are like, what are they doing? Right? Who would have thought that today they're at where they are? Yeah.
Dr. Yudara, just to test your couple alignment, do you have the same sentiments?
Rule number one.
And what is that again? The wife is
Wife
always
is
right.
always- But yeah, future is always my favorite topic. Love to talk hours, but just to summarize few things. At least we try to be ahead of the curve. We are actually working with the core technology with the ChatGPT based on, it's called transformers. I personally, I'm a doctor/engineer. I teach AI in NUS. So we've been working on a transformer project for quite some time, but then obviously we realized ChatGPT did really better than us. So we dropped our project. We adopt the ChatGPT. We are actually releasing our own chatbot based on GPT technology very soon. And it's doing amazing good job. Honestly, I have never seen, people have sensitive questions, when they ask this kind of thing, it gives amazing answers. And why we raise hands, we actually, when people daily ask questions from us and we answer them, what we do is we actually type the prompts. We ask the ChatGPT to explain it in a common person's way. We actually cut and paste. We are very open about it. And we just give the prompts. That's what Melin said just now. The future is how you can actually create a proper prompt. It's not about, we cannot fight anymore. Anyway, moving into some of the things we do, we strongly believe future of diagnostics will be in your phone, because everything else in your phone, right? Your work, your education, your entertainment, and why not in medicine? We are bringing a lot of very advanced technologies in the diagnostics. In the future, if the COVID comes back again, we should be able to actually diagnose these things through the phone, because we can hear, phone can hear, microphone, cough sounds. Actually, some have developed these technologies. So that's why we said we are actually a digital diagnostics for everything. We started with infectious disease, but we will be expanding into, I wish I can share some of the cool projects we are working on. But if these things successful, you can see along the way, you have a big release on the mid-year. People who have never heard or thought of things, and some of the very embarrassing things, but in the future, like ChatGPT, all you just need to do is open your phone, use our services. Simple as that. And our early research shows actually we are sometimes better than doctors. We are close to PCR test, which is $200, and phone is almost free. For us, cost is cloud processing, 10 cents maybe. Yeah. And imagine a world where when these services are incorporated into your daily life. I'll tell you one example just to close, and this will be actually coming as a short series, maybe a drama case, because we are working with a large creative media organizations. They want to take the story. Imagine if you can take some of these things into a dating platforms, and whether you like it or not, world has changed. Gen Z's, young people, how they meet people are mostly based on these dating apps nowadays. It's very different from Melvin and my time, I can see, because it's already 40 plus. So we are more or less same.
So this information will be on dating apps when they are swiping left.
Yes. Imagine if you can actually bring the health conscious status, your sexual health status, your healthy status into these platforms digitally. You don't have to even do tests. Incorporate these things, and you know all these things
Really the future.
immediately in the phone itself. Then you have the option to choose, right? That's the whole thing about you deciding. And we can digitalize these things. So some of these things will be coming over the next few months, along the few quarters. But yeah, it's an amazing future we live in.
I just want to quickly add on to that. I think, of course, Idar talks a lot about, technology, innovation and all that. And for me, the most critical part is how people's behavior and the change of their behavior over time, that technology makes sense for them. I think that's also a very critical part. Let's say if we launch our services probably 5 or 8 or 10 years ago, would it make sense? Probably not, because people's understanding of AI and technology is not really mature enough yet for them to think this can be done or this can be trustworthy or credible. So I think that timing, whether or not the society is mature enough to accept new technology in a different way, I think that's also something that's very important to really look into, dive into, and really understand. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so was keeping a little bit track of time. I think we probably need to move into a little bit of a closing quite soon. But for all our listeners out there, right, could you explain to us your user journey? If someone wants to find you, how do they find you and how do they get through the process?
Yeah, at the moment we have an app called eHealth in Apple and Google Play Stores both. But that's basically a proof of concept to show that people would actually adopt a behavior, what we intend to. Because when we thought about these ideas, a lot of people thought people would not adopt such a behavior. Send very personal details like your private part picture in a phone app or in the internet. But this is where you have to test your hypothesis. It's been used most of the time. Our app is broken because too much demand, and at the moment it's free. It's simple as you download your app, answer a few questions, upload a picture. You will get all the details you need to know about your personal sexual health, specifically penis health. But we are moving forward over the next 2 months. We are actually incorporating into more clinical services coupled with AI, doctors, treatment, testing. As I said, nowadays, most of the people, instead of just going to a doctor, they would prefer to bring a testing kit home, do it by themselves. If anything shows up, then go to the doctor. The behavior is changing. So we are adopting that. Instead of you going to doctor, use our digital services, get a testing kit to your home. If anything positive or if you flag up anything, then we will link up to your doctors. And these services will be launched in Singapore and India, both over the next few months. And it's all in one place kind of situation. But yeah, it's simple as download our app, create a profile, which is completely anonymized, by the way. We don't use your names and stuff. This is how we communicate with you so that we can send you the reports and stuff. And of course, answer a few questions, upload a picture whenever necessary. Sometimes you don't have to upload a picture, and get the results and then follow our instructions. We will be as simple as 1, 2, 3, like what is the possible conditions, what is your next step, and read about more if you want to. Yeah.
Thanks. And what would the name of the app be called?
eHealth.
eHealth. All right. So again, shout out, ladies and gentlemen. It's eHealth. Start by just downloading the app. Okay. Over to Have Halal Will Travel. Let's have a little bit of sharing here about, do you have anything inspirational for our listeners out there? Anything, we are about to close now. So do you have anything that you want to share for our entrepreneurs? Do you have anything you want to share for couples who are starting to move into businesses or anything like that? Do you have anything inspirational?
I think for couples, maybe because since we are sharing about power couples today, to know that communication is very important between you as a team or even between you and your partner, because if you don't communicate and you just like, oh, I'll just let it pass, I think everything will just build up. And if you communicate everything clearly, I think it'll make life much easier. Don't feel like I don't want to share because I don't want to hurt him. I don't share because I don't hurt my teammate. But when we communicate, it will just solve a lot of things. Yeah, moving forward.
Travel and lifestyle platform, right? Melvin, would you like to let us know how do we find you, right? So now if I'm a customer, I'm very interested in this, what's my process?
Just go onto Google and search HHWT. We are the first
It's on the t-shirts. HHWT, ladies and
Maybe the first right.
how long will the process take? And where do we go?
They'll actually go to the website. Yeah, so website. Then you'll see your articles and so on. Then this way you can start browsing and so on. But actually to follow up with thing, right? Because yesterday we just had an argument about this, right? No, it is real, right? I think the first thing we need to recognize, right, is that, if I told you, someone would be paid to do a work, right, or occupation that is like 16 hours a day of training, hard work, put you inside somewhere that might be mortally dangerous. You may get seriously injured or even die, right? You will say, no, I don't want to do that. But then there are MMA fighters that do that. There are pro athletes that do that. They sleep even less time, things like that. So like I said, many are called, but few are chosen. Entrepreneurship has no sugarcoating to it. It is a very brutal process. It is like an MMA fighter. It is like and it is a profession. It is a very tough profession. And there is no way you can look at it. They have a dream that is going to be very nice, like Mark Zuckerberg, go to some yoga retreat, $5 million on his security detail. No, it doesn't work like that, right? Before that, he was in garage. All of them are the same, right? And I think the faster you be true to yourself and the true to the work, right? Then I think it's you're getting somewhere. I think that's the first thing, right? There is no idealistic situation here. You will be talking about work when you eat. You will be talking about it because it's an obsession. If not, you shouldn't be in business. The first is to accept that fact first. Then after you can control it, right? Okay, this is like what they mentioned, the boundaries that I want to set. Because people don't get past the first stage, They think that, it's a very comfortable thing, 9 to 5 thing. Then that's where it goes downhill. It's not. It's an obsession. Then after you recognize it, then you can control it, right? And the last thing I think is very, very true is that you cannot forget why you started in the first place. No matter how many years, how difficult, if you forget that part, it becomes meaningless. Then you will flag, right? Obviously, you will flag. That's why she doesn't know. I got her on this panel so she can remember also, right? So by sharing already, you remember, yeah, actually that's me. You need to look at yourself in the mirror, right? So, because I'll be signing her more up for more sessions, my team also. But it's just reminders, right? Why you start in the first place. You forget that nothing else matters. You're not aligned. The North Star is not shining anymore.
Yeah, it's really about the why. Yeah, always
The why.
remembering the why.
Yeah, the why is the most
connection.
important. The what, how everything can settle, right? Later on.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Very touching, very real. Right. How about health? Either one. Or actually, we have time. Donna, we have time. Donna, I think you can prepare the questions. We have time. Let's hear from both our founders as well. Anything you want to share? Anything inspirational for those planning to move into the area of entrepreneurship, to start their own businesses and to do it together with their loved ones?
I think there's no other way to figure it out rather than just doing it. If you want to do it, just do it. Then you might fail it, but that will give you the best lessons. You learn how to be an entrepreneur. I don't think, of course, few exemptions, but you have to fail it also. That's a very important part. This is not our first one. Me and Mei Ling have done few before and it's all failed. And we are quite proud to say that's what make us today to be at least successful on this project at this point. It might fail again also, but we are never going to give up when you believe in it. And it's a process of building the thing. If you want to do it, start early. I would say for our kids, we will tell them 15, 16, start. Get it, fail. It's fine. Learn it, grow it. So there's no shortcut to me. Yes, listen to the other people, do it. But if you get failed, don't worry, start again.
Great. I mean, really, we see so many startups when they're building their product, they are just waiting for that perfect moment. They're wanting it to be 110% before they finally do a launch. Too late. Market changes and all that already. It's too late, right? So again, start early. Mei Ling?
I think a very key question to really ask yourself on whether or not to start a startup is to really understand yourself. Can you still stand up after 200 people has rejected you, right? I think it's tough because, once, twice, it's fine. Once it crosses 50, 100, can you still stand up the next day and go out to do the same thing? That's a lot of grit that needs to go through. So really be able to understand who you are as a person is very critical. That's one. And another one, there's a video on YouTube called How to Not Start a Startup by Michael Seibel. I always recommend everyone to watch it. So you get a better understanding of what's ahead and whether or not you will be a great fit for doing a startup.
I think there's a book, not prepared for your answer. So I remember there's a book out there about rejections. So the idea was to go out and do something silly, ask something silly, and to get rejected every day, right? So by the end of the year, after being rejected every day, you'll be able to handle rejections like a pro, right? And you will not be afraid of actually doing the pitch or meeting your clients, something like that. Yeah.
That's called doing sales.
That's called doing sales. Thanks for adding that. I wish we had more time. I think we had the whole good conversation on power couples, about the wife always being right. We talked about technology, we talked about data, we summed up about the last component about really just doing sales as well, right? But now we need to give some time to our crowd, and for all of you here who took the time to come in, I would like to open up the floor to Q&A. I think we actually stretched a little bit into our fireside chat time, but let's see what we've got for Q&A. We'll take turns. Donna, while you get the online guests ready, maybe I'll take in a question from our crowd sitting here. Over to you, sir. Actually, I think I need to give you a mic, or yeah, okay. No, actually, I'll give you. Identify yourself and then go for your question.
My name is Sultan. I run a digital marketing agency with my partner over here, Ms. Ng. So my question is pretty simple. As a couple, right? The boundary between your personal relationship and your professional relationship, it's blurry, right? So you might argue the day before. Either one of you might still be bitter, and the next day you guys go to the office, and it affects the chi or the energy. I don't know how you want to call it, but some of these things is like a bit difficult. So how do you guys avoid that? Because if you start your day, you're in the office, the first thing you do negative, there's a ripple effect, right? So what are some of the frameworks or some of the little actions that you guys do to mitigate this issue? Thank you.
I mean, as I said, you have to have a framework. There's no right or wrong answer. It depends on your personality, your partner's personality, and what kind of support structure you have. For example, what we do, totally agree with your question. Your chi will be on the floor if you start with a fight. So don't start a fight. When you have a disagreement, accept the fact that it's a disagreement. Stop it there and say, look, this is our protocol, SOP to how you handle your disagreements. We are serious. We have SOPs, standard operation protocols. So how we do it, we said, okay, I think it's this. You think it's this. We don't agree. We have relevant advisors. Or you, as I said, my parents did a business for 40 years. They are in a very successful place. Her parents did the exact same thing. Start a business in a very successful place. We turn to our parents in the first place and ask my mom and dad, but you have to have that. Is your dad say yes, then you listen to your dad. You cannot say your dad is wrong. So you have to have, okay, our second, and if you have fourth one, you say, look, we have SOP. First you ask your dad. If the dad's one, you still don't agree, you ask a third friend. So that's exactly what you do. We ask our parents and we ask our advisors, and there's no discussion about it. If they say yes, you would say yes and move forward. That way you don't get that unpleasant feeling. You still keep your chi and then you can still move forward. I think this is very important. First fact is you need to understand where you draw clear boundary. Okay, this is part we don't agree on. Move to the next step.
Adding on to that, I think something very important is when you're having conflicts or whatever it is, don't make it personal. It's very important to not generalize things. Do not say, oh, you are always like this, Why do you every time, blah, blah, blah.
Sounds very familiar.
So that is where we set the boundaries. Don't generalize things. Don't make things personal. If this is the decision, you and I do not agree, we go to our standard protocol of things. We call for help for whoever that's expert in the field. And or if things are not so critical, meaning it's not like a very serious decision to make, something small, we will say, if this is the field that belongs to your expertise, you make the final call. If this is the field that I have more expertise, I make the final call, and we align with that. That's it. We don't come back, and also we don't come back later and say, ha, 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 look, I have made the right decision, right? Like, don't do that, because that's very detrimental for sure.
Can you see how fantastic IIE is, guys? We don't just provide startup advice, we provide marriage counseling advice as well, right? We should have done a 2-hour fireside chat. I mean, man, we need this advice. What do you?
There's an easy way out also. As I said, listen to rule 1. It solves the problem very fast. But if that doesn't, you can listen to the rule number 2. That doesn't, of course, you can go into the structure. Most of these things, actually, it boils down to, as I said, there's no right or wrong answer. You have to figure it out your own way, but it has to be very clear. We even write down these things, believe me, in the paper. We work on, not advertisement in Notion, we write down so that you don't have to argue, you know, there shouldn't be anything blurred. It's very clear, black and white. Okay, this is, I think this is answer. We don't agree. Fact. Then you just activate your protocols or whatever you put it. And it has to be like that. There's no other way, you know, because if you put your emotions into it, that's where you get that building up emotions within you and come to a point that it bursts out. And even with our protocols, it still comes to that point. That's why we have structure. As I said, we have our family, we have our friends. Then the third part is professional help. It was tabooed. Oh, we are seeing therapist. That sounds, oh, you guys must be not doing well. We are very proud to say we have our own therapist. That's our last resort. If any of these things doesn't work, go to your therapist. It really, really helps. And startups are crazy, stressful. And you being a couple is plus crazy. And then you need help. If you believe, I mean, I'm guilty. She was first to have the therapist and then I refuse it. But believe me, it helped. And we were, again, same thing. I didn't agree, but then we put to our advisors. Advisors say, yes, you should have it. Yeah, you should have your own therapist. And then it helped. Yeah.
Maybe you should introduce me also after this.
Yeah, I see Melvin and Susanna actually giggling while the question was being asked and we were replying. They run a lifestyle and travel business. I mean, there's a lot of date ideas there. You want to share something, my friends?
I think for us, we're a lot less structured. It was like, I don't know, maybe medical profession a lot more structured because someone actually dies, right? If you don't do it well, right? For us, it's a lot less structured. But I think we have also some rules, whether we know it or not, is something that we strive towards. Like, for example, I don't want to go to bed and having an argument, wake up having an argument. No matter what, right, it needs to be resolved, right? So if cannot resolve, then we agree to postpone it, then talk about it later. That is the basis of it, right? But the thing that guides, again, like the business North Star, there is a North Star for your family or your unit also. You must remember the day you sign the paper and agree to love each other, to sickness, to death, or whatever is in the paper. I remember, you remember, right? They say, right, and those things are real, they are principles, right? So no matter what happens, remember that day. How happy you were, you know, everything, people there witnessing you, sumpah, I will do after this person forever. Remember that day, because that is guiding light, right? The principles. Then you remember that day, then everything else, right, becomes a journey. It may seem very bad at point of time, but I never truly be, because my dad, maybe not so much for her, but my parents are like, I think you guys, right, are entrepreneurs themselves. And they've been through worse, but they can fight, they can do all this, but they always come to a resolution. Always, right? And no matter how bad it is, they will come separately to me to complain and things like that. But it always resolves at the end. And I always admired them, right? Because my dad is like the typical Chinese block of wood, right? She's always like that, right? My mom somehow took it, and somehow it worked. I'm not saying I will be like that, but there are some things we can learn, right? And I think that really helped me also, right, growing up, right? Yes.
Hi, Mufadal here. I help companies go global and improve their operational processes. In a business, there's a lot of elements to make it function properly. What would be for each of you, what would be your key focus, marketing, data, people? What would be your key focus for each of your business?
Thanks for asking. Again, it boils down to what outcome you're expecting. So if you think that your burning question at this point is to get users, marketing would be the more important one. We are in deep science, deep tech. For us, science is a big part, research is a big part. Then it's a bit difficult to just say this is important, but different stages, you might be facing different questions. When we first started, our biggest question is that to prove to the world that our concept, the idea we strongly believe in within ourselves, is something the world will accept. So we push it out and then we realize. So at that point, that's the most important thing. Now our biggest problem is people say, oh yeah, people are using, but do you think that anyone will pay for it? We know for sure people in this kind of stressful, they are willing to pay any amount of money actually, but we have to show it to the world. Then now our biggest question right now, because as I said, we have 1,001 VCs said no to us. We just got funding yesterday.
Congratulations, round of applause.
Yeah, but again, 6 months continuously, we spoke to easily more than 500 VCs, physical meetings more than 100 around the world. I'm well connected in US, Asia Pacific, India. Everybody said no, but we still continue to push. Again, come back to your question. Now the next thing is to prove that commercialization is possible. Then of course you need to really look in the business angle, how you can, what is the exact point which the people would say, oh yeah, this works. Ask that question and see how I can get that answer from. Build from there, then you can get it actually. I think depending on the phase you are in, of course, different things prioritizes.
Like, yeah, 2 seconds. Okay. So I think for me, it's always understanding why. Why wake up in the morning and be busy, right? Why choose this decision over another? What outcome you're trying to get? So basically, it's a who, what, when, where, why, how. The basic thing you learn in primary school. But answering those questions will lead you somewhere. Because like what he mentioned, for every stage, there are different problems, right? So it will always be some focus, right? Based on the why. Yeah, you're in the growth stage. Are you in the commercialization scaling stage? Are you in the mature stage trying to find a new product or things like that? Everything is different. Okay, so then down to your line of business, which is globalization, right? Which markets and why? Right? All matters, right? All these factors will change the permutation and combination of things that are required that will move the needle, right? And so it's really very difficult to say. But if you understand very clearly, I would say spend 90% of the time figuring out why. And it is not that easy. Trust me, we're still doing it. Yesterday I was just looking at data. Oh yeah, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this when there's so much opportunity there? Oh yeah, okay, switch, right? Change, right? Then deciding on that, looking based on data is most important because everything will just fall in place after that.
Hi, I'm Clancy and I'm the partner of Sota. We both run a digital marketing agency together. So my question is, as you guys mentioned just now, running a company together, are you ready to commit 16 hours, 18 hours a day?
That was just an example. Maybe some people got less.
Yeah, you do need to commit time to make things work, right? So how, as like a couple, a power couple who runs a business together, do both of you spend those 16 hours, 18 hours on the business and together as a couple? Or how do you guys separate like your time as a couple and the business? And because we are power couples who do a business together, how do we ensure that both of us are powerful and not like, oh, one is lacking behind, can I still push forward and make the business work? Or if let's say both of us are powerful, do we need to draw back and be like, oh, we are going too much, we need to hold back a little bit? Yeah, so how do you guys work on that?
Great question. Thank you.
I think this one really comes back to communication and understand who you are, who your partner is. That's a very critical question to answer, to then answer the question that you're asking. Because I think the thing is, if you feel that there's something going on and you are not able to communicate and talk about that, that's an issue that you probably, really need to sit down and think about and talk about. And of course, we do that a lot as well. We do that with our therapists as well. Doesn't mean that, we're always having problem or whatsoever, but there are definitely phases, different stressful period, tough patches in the business, always ups and downs. And that's why we mentioned about understanding where are your last line of not last line of defense, but what's your red flags? Understanding what are your red flags and clearly communicate that to start with, then you work from there. So really it comes back to being able to communicate very clearly on what you demand, what you're not okay with, and what you think one another or each other is lacking, or I feel that I'm doing more, what can't do? I think these are really the kind of things that needs to be clearly communicated. And I think for a, couple business partner relationship to really charge ahead, you can't always feel that I'm compromising myself. Because, if you feel that you're compromising, there's definitely a point of that this is it for me kind of thing. So I think that's very important to really be able to realize and communicate. Yeah.
So for me, your question quite loaded. So I'll pick it apart. Tell me whether it is, right? Because it's a very difficult question to answer. The first part is about, time, right? It's about carving time, things like that. My response to that is just like how you think a meeting is important, you need to schedule time to do these things, right? And the geeky example I always give, right, is the second law of thermodynamics. You can read about it, right? It's actually very interesting. It's just very simple. In a given environment, enough time, everything will go to crap. Basically, it's chaos theory, right? Every single thing in life will experience entropy. Your cells will decay. People will go haywire. They'll start eating each other. Cats will get hungry and then become feral. Things happen, right? That is the law of nature. So there is ways to solve that, passive and also active maintenance, right? You must not mix up both, right? There is active maintenance, means if you don't fly the airplane properly during landing, it will crash because there's no autopilot. But then there are some things that are autopilot, right? So you must know which one is what. And the reason why I give you this is because if you don't carve out enough time to celebrate things, to do things, which is active maintenance, you will go down. Like these SOPs that you create, and this is active maintenance to prevent entropy, right? So you must treat it. And I think I also begin to realize and agree with my wife since yesterday's discussion, heated discussion, that it's very important to carve up this time, right? And we have to figure out, it may not be in the way you think it is. It might be 5 minutes, 15 minutes, a small hug in the mornings, whatever. You need to find these things, right? Small things to have maintenance, right? Active maintenance, right? So that I cannot advise you. It's your own little way to do things. It's very personal, right? So that's the first part. You have to cover time. The second part is a bit more complex. It has to do with scaling, right? Because you asked about power couple. If you are a power couple, then, is it, going forward, moving back or whatever, right? So I can imagine a few things, but this is a corporate and also a startup problem, right? They make more complex with relationships. All founders have their limit. Not the same limit. There are capacities. That's why people hire their bosses. That's why they replace with department heads and so on. There will be a stage that everybody will scale to a certain point and say, I don't know anymore. At that point, everybody must be mature enough to say, I don't know. That is the first part. To everyone, thyself be true. Because to all startups, that is the most difficult part. To hire a boss, to hire someone to scale. You must be ready to do that. Right? If you hold on, the business won't grow. That's the first thing, right? And after you recognize that, then you come to the second complication, right? Well, for founders, there are different capacities, there are different callings, different interests, different things, right? You will stop at different points in the scale, right? And that part is the part that is made more complex since you are couples, right? In which you have a choice. The first choice is move on, accept it, move on, or pull the person up. But regardless what the option is, a lot of egos involved. A lot of egos involved. Both are difficult problems that you have to move yourself, right? For everyone scaling, that is you reach a point you will know one day, yeah, scaling at different paces, right? Do you want to or not? And if you not, doesn't mean you immediately go to trash. Right? There are some places where you still can flourish. And those discussions you must have early. Yeah, these are real problems, right? That later on, a lot of startups will face.
We should have made this a 2-hour fireside chat. So we just had a pulse check. We have no online questions unless some question just came in. Donna, are you there? Do we have anyone online that needs to ask a question?
No, all good here.
Okay, all right, fantastic. So with that said, sorry, anyone else wants to ask a question? No? Okay. So with that said, we'd like to extend a very warm and grateful thanks to the 4 of you for coming in. We have Dr. Yudara, we have Mei Ling from HeHealth, we have Melvin, and we have Susanna from Have Halal World Travel. So can we get a round of applause, please? Thank you very much again. I think there's 2 things that we need to do. Firstly, Jijo, could we get a group picture, please? And then secondly, I think, Donna, do you have it with you, the feedback form? We need to toggle that and we put it up to get feedback. Oh, you, okay. Yeah, no, we do feedback later because we want the background for the group picture. Yeah. Okay, so Ginger, maybe you can take it from there. Yeah, then guys, you want to come to the front a little bit and then we just do a group picture here? Our speakers can stay. Our speakers can stay. Yeah, everyone just come around. And then after that, Chilion can help with the feedback form. Yeah, so friends, come further in, please. We'll do a group picture. Form. Yeah, just a 2 second, like 2. And then before everyone leaves, please put in your feedback, and we do have